What propaganda did you totally buy into, only to realize later it was bullcrap? Edit. Tons of people think COVID-19 is bullcrap propaganda, so that's horrifying. That I need a creative career to be happy. It breaks my heart to admit I spent years grinding for a chance at an interesting career and didn't get very far. And worse, I was okay with being underpaid for the experience. Now I kinda wish I took on a regular well-paying job and used my free time to travel and pursue my own passion projects. Indestructible dog toys. I watched one dog tear a Kevlar toy like a baboon ripping into an orange. He's a sweetheart, but all toys around him are disposable. The money-hungry lady suing McDonald's for millions for spilling coffee on herself story. That most people achieve success in their lives during their 20s. This is bullcrap in the grander scheme of things. Lots of super talented people end up becoming successful in their late 30s, 40s, and even 50s. The same goes for the concept of if you want to get good at something, you have to start super young, which does sometimes work. But a lot of people can actually get good at a skill in older ages. You can learn the piano in your 30s and get really good at it, but you're not going to be doing concerts or anything. But it doesn't mean that you're not good/great/exceptional at it. That carrots give you exceptional night vision. I later found out that that particular belief became widely accepted due to a British propaganda campaign from World War II designed to hide the invention of radar from the Germans. They claimed that the reason their Air Force pilots were so effective at night was due to them being fed carrots to increase their night vision. It was so effective that people still tout that particular benefit of carrots years after the war ended. Edit. A couple corrections. While carrots are rich in vitamin A, which helps prevent your eyesight from deteriorating, they still do not give superhuman vision like the propaganda claimed. The myth isn't that they are good for your eyesight. It is an exaggeration of how effective they actually are. Also, I was incorrect when I said that the British were trying to cover up the invention of radar. They were in actuality trying to cover up an advancement in radar technology that they didn't want the Germans finding out about. I paid for LimeWire. I live with that shame every moment of my life. Reddit is an interesting website where you can share your thoughts and opinions. That the only way to achieve success in life is to study hard, get top grades, and go to university and study something like law or medicine. Plenty of people I know have achieved success and happiness without top university education. I also believe the idea that the career you study for is for life. Edit to add. I meant that you don't need to have a top degree from a top university. Lots of people choose TAFE like I did. I think it's called technical college in the US. Study something you enjoy, as long as you can still make a living from it. I was all set to study law myself, but I realized that I wasn't that passionate about it. I took some time off to figure out what I wanted to do. Anti-vax. At one point I was completely sold on the whole "how can you inject infants with dangerous chemicals" crap. Then I read up on the actual science and realized how uninformed I was. Trivial, but I bought into the lie that the more you cut hair, the more it grows. I've been shaving my beard for years hoping to get a nice thick bush to no avail. I just have to accept that nature played me and deal with my patchy face hair. The Patriot Act, or rather the notion of the nothing to hide, nothing to fear approach to privacy rights. That I need to look young forever. Women are sold so many skincare products and cosmetic procedures to stay looking young. Then I realized it's not really affecting my health if I just age naturally, so I can just not give a crap and live my life unafraid of wrinkles if I want to. GMOs are dangerous for your health. When my mom says that I can tell her anything and should see her as a friend, and when I finally confide in her it turns into a lecture. The Maple Leafs will win a Stanley Cup in the next few years. The different sections of the tongue are responsible for sensing different flavors. Connie 2012. The anti-drug campaigns we all had to listen to as a kid. Okay, in kindergarten the teachers at my school literally dressed us up as pilgrims and Indians and made us sing all these songs about the feast and how we all got along with one another. So imagine my shock when I learned about the Trail of Tears and other atrocities later in life. Canada is real. I can't believe I thought there was a mass above the US. I almost fell for a pyramid scheme twice. I bought into the abstinence until marriage crap in middle school, when they made you sign all the fancy pamphlets about why it's the right thing to do. Really felt it would stop my fellow classmates from having sex until marriage. My belief in that fell apart in high school. A teammate on my football team would tell stories in the pre-game time for JV games about how he had banged some girl the other week. I can still remember 3 specific stories, one of which was how he had sex while wearing a Ziploc baggie instead of a condom. Chiropractic as healthcare. This was a side effect of growing up with my anti-vaxxer mom. Iraq had WMDs. AYN rand objectivism. College is required to be successful. Absolutely untrue. Free and fair elections in American politics. I totally bought into that ridiculous Denver airport conspiracy for a few months after a friend showed me it in high school. Creationism. Science was my worst subject in high school, and BO my weakest science, and while I grew up and still am Presbyterian, the Christian groups at both my high school and college were deeply evangelical. Learned all their arguments without hearing the actual evidence. Then I met an actual scientist and tried to tell him this crap. Set me straight pretty quick. American exceptionalism. 911 conspiracy crap. While I wouldn't be surprised if good evidence was revealed the government had a hand in it, and I'm confident the government's perpetual war in response to it is immoral and money driven, I don't really think there is reliable enough evidence to make a claim on it being a false flag or not. When I was a teenager I thought that everyone over 30 years old and doesn't understand me. I was a freaking idiot. Santa Claus. Ultimate communist propaganda. Work your ass off year round until you're made to hand deliver product to anyone who believes in the system. I totally feel for the whole communism as a concept isn't a bad idea bullcrap when I was in school. Then I realized that something wasn't adding up when you considered why it has been tried so many times and never succeeded. That was when I finally understood the true reason communism always fails. People are assholes and communism can't work if even a single person is anything other than completely selfless. That's just not in human nature. Sorry, maybe heaven is communist, but not earth. That my mom won't get mad at me if I tell the truth. Mission trips are for helping others. Really, it's just a huge ego boost for many people who want to exploit people's needs to feel better about themselves. Plus the whole part where it might actually be more harmful than helpful. I spent the majority of my teens watching Fox News with my parents. Literal propaganda. I used to be big into conspiracy. Alex Jones was right. Clintons are actually alien lizard people, and all sorts of crazy stuff. I even believed Obama was a secret agent Muslim going to install martial law and kill all non-Muslims. It got to the point I was even considering grabbing guns. I even thought about if I attacked a mosque that I could help stop the Muslim takeover. It took so long to get my mind straight. It's a slippery slope, and it's not something I want anyone to go down on. That I was responsible to support my mother emotionally, like it was my job. My whole family got in on this, and let me be the emotional punching bag. I wished up at 25, which start a whole other crazy roller coaster. But it was amazing to realize that no, I'm not required to prop up another emotionally. For a little bit there I was listening to Ben Shapiro and got wrapped up in all those Ben Shapiro thug life compilations on YouTube where he owned social justice warriors. Then one day I realized that Ben's just a fast talking rich kid who speaks from a position of privilege. Who is he to judge these college kids? He jumped from high school to college, to Harvard, to Goodwin Proctor. He's never had to struggle financially like so many in this country have. What the frick does he know about the real world? There is a normal, and everyone around you is normal. This normal makes them happy, but it's blissful ignorance. Turns out normal doesn't exist. Everyone's just hiding everything because they want to fit in with all the normal people. Trying to be an Instagram model, specifically putting my energy into looking a certain way and gaining massive amounts of followers. As a recent college graduate, I have realized how dumb it is to try to conform to this trend that is imposed on young girls. I'd much rather focus my energy on more fulfilling things. Most of the anti-Japan crap online I listened to when I was a kid, but now I realize that most of that crap wasn't true. Edit, I'm from America, but I grew up around others who were very racist against Asians. Mostly Japan because they saw their culture as backwards compared to America. The propaganda online isn't as common today, but it was more common when I was little. Sorry for the lack of info, I didn't expect this to get that much attention. Tumblr feminism. I spent my childhood on the internet and I think it led me to believe in a lot of crappy things. It's easy to say, oh, it's just sick people online. Unfortunately, modern society has leaned towards them now. That the popular jocks peak at high school. The most popular jocks in my class have successful careers with high-paying jobs, built stable families, and have overall comfortable, good lives. They have done better for themselves than the geeks of the class. That voting third party in 2016 was a good idea, because if the votes hit some type of threshold, it would help us move away from the two-party system in the future. Worst part is that not only did I fall for it and voted Gary Johnson, but now I also see that same bullcrap going around this year with one of the Green Party candidates. American exceptionalism. I've come to believe it is not absolute. Yes, we are exceptional, but so are a lot of other countries. Being a card-carrying liberal, basically, being hardcore, no exceptions Democrat. It's all I grew up with. When I was older I realized my dad was literally the liberal version of the common caricature of a conservative, small-minded, hateful of ideas that don't mesh with his, angry, condescending, etc. It made me realize it's a problem on both sides of the aisle. Getting so enmeshed in your ideas that you can't think logically anymore because it doesn't jive with what your team thinks. I no longer hate conservatives and I don't hate liberals because of this either. I just try to take it issue by issue. That communism was the solution to all ills. I had a teacher in high school who said things like America took 250 years to become a developed country, while Russia only took 70. China went communist and became rich in 50, 60 years, while India isn't. Convinced most of us that communism was the only way to solve all the problems, except that India had actually been under heavy Soviet influence and had tried the planned economy and communism model. It was all ugly government buildings, shortages, import substitution, poverty, people dying, brain drain, and no enterprise or industry other than from people related to or friendly with the people in power. This model failed in 1991 as a side effect of the Gulf War, and we had to open up our economy within a decade, even with really basic reforms. The pace at which people came out of poverty was staggering. This teacher was telling us this in 1999, the same year the Indian software made a huge killing from fixing Y2K and moved a lot of people who were living paycheck to paycheck to the upper middle class. Just a few years ago it had been impossible to even get computers as an entrepreneur because there were so many expensive taxes and no local manufacturers. That there is a meaningful difference between the two American political parties. They have different messaging, and they'll fight over whatever bullcrap, but at the end of the day it's all just a unified bipartisan effort to transfer wealth upwards. The weird rules of Islam. The religion doesn't allow us to do so many things, only to realize that it's bullcrap. Orion's fanny pack was actually Orion's belt. Effing Uncle Steve. As a teen console wars. That marriage is a requirement for having a life partner. Most of these comments are about cults and stuff, but from my understanding of propaganda, which is basically ads to get you to do something, I totally bought the play this inappropriate game for free and then asked for my credit card info. I fell for this quite a few times sadly, to realize that's bullcrap for anything that says for free. It's Zeitgeist. Pet rocks. All they did was lay around. Total ripoff. Material goods are unimportant and meaningless. If it's one thing lockdowns have taught me, it's that all those little things, grabbing a coffee, going to a museum, are actually what makes day-to-day life worth living. It's not only okay to care about that stuff, You're supposed to care about it. They're a part of your experience and a reflection of your personality. That the only way I would be able to succeed in life is if I had a college degree. I had good jobs that I loved and made decent money to live comfortably and take care of my daughter. My sisters are both in nursing, but I got married and became a mom at 20. My mother hounded me for years and years to get a degree. That I needed to set a good example to my daughter and go back to college. My husband wanted me to be happy I was at the time as a travel agent, but my mother would not drop it. Then during the recession I lost my job and was at home. My mom picked me up one day for lunch and we ended up in the admissions office of the local Brown Mackie college. I ended up 2 years later with a vet tech degree and $30,000 in debt. Can't get a job BC of new expensive qualifications that I need to go with said degree. I now am an assistant manager of a back restaurant making about $6 more per hour than if I was a vet tech. I'm now 40. My daughter is up and out and is very proud of me. When I was growing up as a kid in the United States of America, I really did believe that the United States was flawless and the absolute best country in the world. Now, I'm realizing that the United States has many issues, many flaws, and it's actually difficult to argue it as the best country in the world. I upvoted a guy on askreddit only because it was his cake day. Christian purity culture. It tries to masquerade as protecting your heart and other such bullcrap, but it really just perpetuates so much harmful crap. Examples: telling girls to cover up so they don't tempt the boys, as if seeing a bra strap gives a guy the right to do or say anything, ignoring the fact that girls have a sex drive, and basically teaching them that their natural desires are wrong, making it difficult for them to communicate what they want, even if they are married. Targeting girls with most of the no sex before marriage talk, because if you give away all your flower petals you won't have anything special to give your husband on your wedding night. Course that's how vags work. Most of the bullcapery is directed at women, but it ends up being harmful to everyone. When I was 14 I read Atlas Shrugged and swallowed that libertarian crap like fresh peen. How embarrassing. 100% believed in the whole the Bible is entirely literal thing and other Catholic propaganda, such as gays are evil. Which is funny, considering I'm a lesbian. Ick now. Being Mormon lol. Masturbator reactions in front of a crowd of chickens helps release the fear of talking to a coworker one-on-one. Never tried it in front of a live crowd. Only chicken farm pictures on the internet. I still don't have the confidence of talking FO my coworkers. Oh, this is dangerous on Reddit lol. DARE. Everyone on my political spectrum are all good and everyone on the other side are terrible people who have absolutely nothing to offer in a discussion and no valid opinions. In middle school, they made us take political party quizzes to see what we would vote. It became this whole us vs them atmosphere. This only became worse when my parents would be talking about the other side like they were all idiots. I firmly believed growing up that anyone opposite to me on the political spectrum are evil, dumb people and any points that may align with them are bad. I believed you had to be all or nothing. I was very closed-minded. That the Trump campaign colluded with Russia. I was a communist for like a year. Communism is an ideology that only works on paper. An ideology that thinks that people that have been killing each other for hundreds of years will come together and work for a common purpose. It's an ideology that only works in a world where everyone is lawful good and selfless. Not to mention the historical revisionism and cult of personality around people who committed genocides. Stalin, Mao, Tito etc. Thankfully through research I started to slowly chip away at it and realize the truth. CNN. Carrots improve your eyesight. Everyone knows this, right? Bullcrap. British propaganda. In WW2 when the British started using radar, all of a sudden they started downing enemy planes like crazy, especially in the night. Radar was the reason, but fricking carrots was the excuse. They spread that crap like crazy, in newspapers, scientific journals, radio, TV, you name it. Carrots give you improved sight, and I bet you your parents still believe it. It's pretty much common knowledge to everyone I bring it up to, but the truth is carrots are no better for your eyesight than any other vegetable. That there is a map of taste buds on your tongue that tastes sweet. Salty and sour. I may or may not have taught this to a class of 3rd graders many years ago. That soda rotting your teeth is a myth. I read it when I was in the 4th grade waiting in the school's office in a science magazine where a scientist had submerged baby teeth in soda for over a month. And they were perfectly fine. It's needless to say that my elementary school had a lot of soda machines. My government says we are a democracy, but we are actually a one-party system. And our leaders are morons who spend millions on parades. BTW, I'm not from China or North Korea or Russia. The consumerist bubble we are born into in America. That the Republican Party was a massively Christian-based group and cared only about the best interests of the American people, and that Democrats were evil communists that were the cause of the division in our country. Yeah. Funny thing was, the more I enveloped myself into Christianity, the more I realized how full of crap the people around me were, and how much they were twisting the Bible to fit their own opinions. That they were relying on everyone else's lack of knowledge of the Bible. Ended up leaving my church and denouncing the Republican Party ever since. Trickle-down economics, frick that. Every penny that makes it to the top gets hoarded there. In high school, I bought into the idea that all the problems in the world were caused by billionaires and capitalism. Damn, was I wrong. Lol. That capitalism is the ultimate economic system and that it works very well. All the time. Every time. And is self-regulating. As well as being more ethical than any other economic system. In good universities, you'll receive a good education. Hell yeah, my hair turned white due to stress, congrats. I study at one of the prestigious unis in my country, and how they deal with corona and online courses should not be experienced by anyone. Do payday loans count? Obama. Australia. It's a hoax. I used to be an alt-righter. Thankfully, I realized how disturbing this ideology was, and I stopped believing in it completely. I'm still ashamed of having ever thought that, for example, homosexuality is a sickness. Edit. I explicitly said that I'm no longer an alt-righter, and I hate it. That feminists are these extreme, delusional and crazy people. I used to love those vids of PPL owning feminist SJW idiots. Found it so entertaining I almost got sucked into that entire skeptic, alt-right side of the internet. Luckily I came to my senses after a short while and realized that 1. Majority of feminists are just regular people who want equal rights and treatment for genders. And 2. Falling down a rabbit hole of extremism is easier than I thought. Especially if you're an impressionable teenager with too much free time and a boner for Justice 30th. Democrats, good. Republicans, bad. Now I realize that they're both just two sides of the same crappy coin. Clinton 2016. Fell for a lot of Republican propaganda and later eventually bordered on becoming alt-right, from further than Republican propaganda, and had some somewhat racist/sexist views, not to an extreme but somewhat questionable. Needless to say, my views have drastically changed over time. I was about 13, 14 at the time that I had those views. Definitely glad I've changed. Wouldn't have been able to meet a lot of the people I know and adore today if I stayed in that narrow frame of mind. Number behavioral women. The war on drugs. I've been always against any drug, while OFC drinking my liver out like the perfect anti-drug stereotype. I've never felt so stupid and ignorant once I smoked weed for the first time and started reading actual studies with hard data. And then I learned about the Ehrlichman quote. Disgusting. Trickle-down economics. The Democratic Party. The Democratic Party